All right, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Accelerator membership. Can you guys hear me okay? Is my sound good,
A
Q?
little low.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Let me double check my sound, but in the meantime, yeah, it is a little low. So welcome to the Accelerator membership. This is our second lesson for being world famous. What a bodacious title, right?
Right.
The For those of you that may be listening to the recording, the way we flow each month is we start teaching. We start a new topic the first week of every month, and we teach. The second week, we break that teaching down to make sure you get an understanding. The third week, we mastermind, focus on internalizing the information. And then the fourth week, we focus on implementation. Doesn't do any good to know better and not do better. So we want to make sure that we set you up to succeed, set you up for success. All of that said, we're going to get started right now into the breakdown of this lesson. And there is a handout in the chat. And if you're not a member of the group yet, there's a link where you can join for $1. So we'll keep those two items in the chat for you. So lesson number 2, what does it take to be world famous? What does it really mean to be world famous is a good place to start, right? The point number 1 says, whenever we enter into the spirit of it, whenever we enter into the spirit of it, our lives are enriched. It's blank. Our lives are enriched. And that which we begin, and that which we begin to live into is enriched. And that which we begin to live into is also enriched as well. So I like to begin just by saying it was exciting in the teaching because it seems primarily like, world famous. We talk about a lot of business applications, but as you remember in the teaching last week, we also talked about this is even more so just a great formula for life. It's not just a formula for success in business, and it's not even just a formula for success in life. It's a formula for fulfillment and happiness. I was listening to a lady on LinkedIn this morning talking about wanting to be happy. And she said she realized that there's no direct road to happiness. You can't just flip a button. In essence, you become happy by doing things that make you happy. That's how you arrive at happiness. So this is one of the processes for arriving at happiness. And better yet, because happiness can be fleeting, to arrive at fulfillment, where you're living by purpose, right? Number 2, the fishmongers aren't attached to the outcome as much as they're attached to the participation in getting the outcome. An outcome is the blank for both of those blanks. The word outcome fills the blank. The fishmongers aren't attached to the outcome as much as they're attached to their participation in getting the outcome.
And that is the first blank too, right?
Yes, it's the blank for both. So that may sound a little circular, maybe in some ways, but it's what we're saying here is one thing to get the goal. It's one thing to have a goal. Let's say that. It's another thing to take the actions necessary to achieve goals. People set goals all the time. In fact, in a couple of months, there's going to be a big day or night of goal setting, right? New Year's resolutions. But it's probably a pretty sad realization of how many people actually achieve those goals. So it's one thing to set a goal, it's a whole nother thing to achieve the goal. And this is actually the answer to that. When you're working on achieving goals, you don't focus on the goal all day. You check in with the goal and make sure you're on track. But your focus is not your goal all day. That I'm going to make $100,000 this year. I'm going to make $100,000 a year. That's not your focus, because saying it is not going to get it done. You know, we talk a lot about visualizing and you know, and focusing on what we want. That's the first step. But the Bible clearly told us that faith without works is dead. So it's really the big step is taking action. That's just the first step. It's an important step because it puts you in the right direction, but you got to take action. So if my goal, for instance, when I was in the beauty industry, if my goal was to become a fully booked hairdresser, which took an inventory of about 240 clients, so I can have 8 clients every day, 5 days a week, you know, for the whole year. Well, I had to spend some of my time on finding clients, not just focusing on getting clients. And I had to spend a lot of time on actually servicing them clients, and even more time on making sure they were happy in the way that I was servicing them. So my focus was my real participation is what was doing what it was going to take to get that outcome, not just having that outcome. Number 3 says, what am I doing to manifest what it is that I want? What am I doing to manifest is the blank, what it is that I want. So what have you done this month towards your goals? Better yet, what have you done this week towards your goals? Or even better yet, what did you do yesterday? Or what are you going to do today towards achieving your goals? That's what it comes down to. We eat every day. We got to work on our goals every day. Manifesting starts with an idea, but it ends with a lot of doing. It starts with an idea, but it ends with a lot of doing. This is how you build anything. So we're seeing the idea for this month, and hopefully you'll take it forward in the rest of your life. The idea is to be world famous. Well, how are you going to do that? You're going to be there with people. You're going to play with people. You're going to make their day, and you're going to choose your attitude each day. This is the process. We can have that great lofty, I mean, it's a really great idea to be world famous. It's very inspiring, but it takes some work. Number 4, what was their intent? Or excuse me, it was their intent. Their purpose is the blank. Their attitude and their participation is the blank. And entered into the spirit of it that made them world famous. So again, it was their intent, their purpose, their attitude, and their participation in entering into the spirit of it that made them world famous. This is where it all starts, entering into the spirit of it. The fish workers, they tapped into their greatness every day. Wouldn't that be, I mean, imagine that. You know, I hadn't thought about it, and it's just this moment. You got a job in a fish market, but because of not the nature of the job, but the nature of who they became in doing this job, not only made them world famous, but what I just realized right now, look how their lives were enriched every day by going to work and operating in this way. How much, you know, we again, you know, we're going to talk about it in a minute. You know, I'm just a wife, I'm just a mom. That's our problem, right? I'm just a coach. No, you know, if you would level up what you're doing in terms of those things, it would make being just as Martin King said, Martin Luther King. I talk like I knew him personally, right? Martin King. Martin Luther King, let me put some respect on his name, right? He says, if you're going to sweep streets, do that as unto the Lord. That's really what the scripture is really saying, right? Do everything at this level. Number 5, as long as you look at yourself as just a mom, all the blanks are just, let me help you out here, as just a mom, or just a spouse, or just an employee, or just a friend, or just a neighbor. That's what you will be. Wow. That's what you will be. We call that in our work, Q, right? That's a self-identity problem. That's a self-concept problem. As long as you look at yourself as just a mom, just a spouse, just an employee, or just a friend, or just a neighbor, that's all you will be. There's a book that E. Marie, Q, and I all like as coaches. I'm sure many people like it. Called Cyber, what is it?
Psycho-cybernetics.
Yes, man. I always thought that's the craziest title. I think he needs to retitle it.
It's so good, though.
Yeah, it's an incredible book. And he has, I don't know how early on in the book, it must be pretty early, but it's like a gut punch. And he tells you right off, you will never outperform the image you hold of yourself. You will never outperform the image you hold of yourself. If you're just a mom, that's all you can be, is just a mom. You will never be an exceptional mom if you're just a mom, because that's the image you hold of yourself. Stephen Covey used to say, you don't see the world that exists. We see the world as we exist. We are the filter that brightens or dims our world. I mean, we've already been told that this is the day that I have made. We've already been conditioned, or we've already been told that this is a miracle, this is great. So how do some people wake up in the mornings and it's not a good day? Some people spend a life. It's not a good life. Well, how is that? And somebody else is feeling like, wow, I'm walking on clouds. And we've all had days like that, right? Where we walked on clouds. Well, this is suggesting we can have many more days like that if we change how we see ourselves and if we change what we do in return. That you see the world not that as it is. If this day is not the greatest for you, ain't got nothing to do with the day, the world, or anything. It's all you. You see the world as you exist, not as the world exists. You are the filter that brightens your day or dims your day. That should be enough for all of us to leave here this morning and have a great day. We can stop there, okay? But we won't. If you want to be world famous, start with believing you can be. Start with believing you can be. Because it does, when you first hear it, it's like, okay, this is all good and cute, Jerry, but world famous as a wife, as a sister, as a mama. I don't, not only am I not sure that's doable, but if it is doable, I don't know if I'm up for all of that. Does it take all of that, Marie?
Why not?
It don't take all of that. But yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, why choose a mediocre life when fishermen are out here having an extraordinary life playing with fish? Yes. And number 6 says, in fact, thank you, E. Marie, why not be world famous in everything that you do? Did you read my notes already? No. Why not be world famous in everything that you do? Why not? I know me and the boys were visiting Bruno one time. Bruno was one of our mentors, lives in a $58 million home in Beverly Hills. And my one son, Caleb, they grew up with him. He's like their rich uncle. Okay. And so, they're very casual with him. And Caleb was up there walking around one day and he said, Bruno, he said, man, I would love to have a house like this. And that's exactly what Bruno told him. He says, why not? It's more than a notion. He says, if you only knew how real, you just saying that you're saying it as though it's not possible for you. But I never would have thought it was possible for me. And he told us one time, I wish I'd have lived more courageously. With what I know now, and I know what the possibilities, what I've created in my life now that I never thought was anything possible. Now that I know what I know, I wished I'd have lived more courageously. So he told him, why not, Caleb? You could have a house like this. This is what I love most about this lesson. Imagine what your life would be like when you live it in this way. That's our opening.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So number 7 is decide that you are going to have maximum impact in the lives of everyone you interact with, and follow these 4 principles, right? Which we already know what those are, but I'll say this part again. Decide that you're going to have maximum impact in the lives of everyone you interact with, and follow these 4 principles. And those 4 principles, we've been repeating them throughout these lessons. Be there is that first one. Be there. Okay? Be there. Who's going to decide to be there, right? Who can you be there for? Yep, be there is A. That next one is play. And I know this one's a big one for a lot of people. I end up coaching a lot of people, and sometimes we get so hyper focused and just so laser vision with our work or our career, right? Business, our goals. And we're so focused that we forget to play, right? Right? We forget to have that lightness about us, right? Everything is just we're in our head and stressed, and I got to get this done. No, we got to play, right? Have that lightness about us, right? How can you play? C is make their day. Make their day. And I think really all of these tie into each other, right? You can't really make their day a lot of times without having a little play, right? You can't really be there and not make their day, right? If you're fully present. I think they all kind of tie into each other, or they could. Make their day is C. D is choose your attitude. Choose your attitude. So those are be there, play, make their day, choose your attitude. And something that helps us do this, and just even helps us build rapport in general, as we go into 8, is form, right? So 8 is forming a person. If you remember from the first lesson, means that you learn what the person's values and motives are. Okay? Forming a person means that you learn what the person's values and motives are. And as a reminder, forming a person, right? That's an acronym, okay? So the F in form stands for family. Okay? So this is asking about their family, right? Their background, their personal life. Okay. You know, how many siblings do you have? Do you have kids, right? Are you married, right? Where are you from originally? This builds that comfort and trust. That's the F is form. I mean, inform is family. Okay. The O is occupation. You know, a big part of our lives is what we do for as our profession, right? It's a big part of our lives, whether we like it or not. Um, occupation. So ask about what they do for work or what they did for work, right? Before they retired, how they spend their time. You know, what do you do? How'd you get into that? Right? That's one thing I like to ask people when, especially if they're really passionate about something. I like to ask them, well, how'd you get into that? Like, how'd that start for you? Because usually it's a really good story of how they got introduced to it. Right? Believe it or not, I'm here able to talk to you today because someone gave me a CD. Right? Somebody gave me a CD of Jim Rohn, who a lot consider one of the grandfathers or fathers of personal development, they called him. And listening to that CD really changed my life, you know? So that was the first introduction to personal development I had is listening to a CD. And then I let E. Marie listen to the CD, right? And here both of us are because of a CD. So you just never know what that story is, you know? So you ask them, how'd you get into that, right? This just helps you to understand their motivations and their daily life, really, right? R is recreation, okay? Form, in that form. R is recreation. So find out what they enjoy doing, right? What do they like doing for fun? You know, what do they like to do when they're not working? All right. What do they like to do when they're not working? So this reveals their passions, their lifestyle, their personality, even, right? Some people aren't lined up, you know, their profession is lined up with what they really love doing. And you find out so much more about a person. And then the M in form is motivation. Okay, or message. So I've seen it either way. It could be message or motivation. So I'll let you go with whichever one speaks to you. But in this lesson, we had it as message. But learn what drives them, their goals, their dreams, or what's most important to them right now. Okay. So I mean, that might be like, what are you working towards this year? Right? What's more important to you right now? So it's formed because it lets you form a real connection with the person in front of you, right? You're showing genuine curiosity about the person, not just trying to, you know, create small talk just for the sake of doing it, right? Once you understand their family, their occupation, their recreation or hobbies, their motivations or their message, it becomes natural to tailor your conversation for that person, right? It's not cookie cutter. You're actually really finding out about them. So I just wanted to break that down because I really love that that form method, right? Forming a person means that you learn what the person's values and motives are when you boil it all down. Be there, right? Number 9. What's a way that you can be there for your friends, children, spouse, neighbors, right? What's a way that you can be there for your friends, children, spouse, neighbors? And that's something to think about. What is a way that you can be there for your friends, children, spouse, neighbors? And what I like about this is it doesn't always have to be some grandiose thing, right? For you to be there for somebody. Sometimes it's just checking in on them. One thing I'll do a lot is I'll just go through my phone book and I'll just go through the names, and I'll see a name as I'm scrolling through, and it's somebody that maybe I haven't talked to in a while, and I'll just send a text. And oftentimes they'll say, I was just thinking about you, right? Or, wow, I'm glad that you reached out to me right now. I'm going through some things, right? Sometimes. Or they've got some great news to tell me, right? Some things have been going really well in their lives. But either way, that's just one of my little ways of being there. It's just I scroll through the contacts, and I'll just reach out to certain people, say, hey, how's it going? No motive, just checking in, just being there. Right? 10, with play, it's not the activity, it's the spirit of playthink, of things that you do every day in your life, how you can add the spirit of play to that. Right? So it's not the activity, it's the spirit of playthink, of things that you do every day in your life. And how can you add the spirit of play to that? So you don't have to do anything extra, right? Or really go out of your way. What are, things you do every day in your life? How can you add some play to it? How can you play a little bit, right? With when you go up to the register, right? How could you be there for that person at the register a little bit? Right? Choose your attitude, make their day. Great opportunity. We all go to the store, right? We all go somewhere where we're interacting with others. So there's no excuse. We have an opportunity to use all of these. Okay? Make their day. How are you going to show up today, right? It's early still, so we got time. How are you going to show up today so that you can make someone's day? So you can make someone else's day. How are you going to show up today so that you can make someone else's day? How are you going to show up? Who do you want to be in your interactions today? That's one thing I talk to clients about when we're coaching a lot. It's one of those concepts is you get to choose who in that meeting that you have today. Who do you want to be when you have that tough conversation that you got to have? Who do you want to be when you go to the store? Who do you want to be? How are you going to show up? Yep. How are you going to show up today so that you can make someone else's day? And then in the lesson, we went over the 5 Love Languages, which is a book by Gary Chapman. Great book. So if you haven't read it, it's a good book to read. And this is just, once again, another way for us to understand others, right? Understand their values. And so we will quickly go over those. The 5 Love Language, affirmation, right? Words of affirmation is what it really is. Words of affirmation. Some people, that's their love language. They like to hear when they're doing good, or they're looking good, or right. Some people, that's their love language. They need to hear it, right? So words of affirmation is that first one. The second one is gifts. And a lot of times, doesn't have to be a big gift, a huge gift, right? I talked about going to the store and getting a chocolate when I'm going grocery shopping and giving it to my wife. Makes her day, right? We're talking about making someone's day. I can make someone's day for $1. Can you believe that? I can make someone's day for $1. So gifts is that second one. Acts of service is the third one. Some people's love language is acts of service, just doing things for them, right? And once again, a lot of times it doesn't mean it's this huge thing. Doesn't mean you had to build a house for them, right? But acts of service. hey, I knew that you needed this thing or you wanted this thing, and I took care of it. Right? Even at work, you know. I remember times when I was years ago when I was working in the burn center, um, you know, sometimes they had to make these wraps to put on people's hands. And most of the time, I would already have a bunch of them made up. So when the therapists were looking and they had to go in there sometime and rush and they had to cut material to make these wraps, I had already a big tub of them sitting there, right? A lot of times they'd come by, oh man, Q, you know, I was rushing with this patient. They had just got out of OR, and you know, you already had a bunch of them sitting there. You know, thank you for getting ahead on that, right? Acts of service, right? Number 4, quality time. Yep, some people just want quality time. You don't need to do anything else. Be here with me, right? Quality time is that number 4. And then number 5 is physical touch. Okay, physical touch. So the 5 love languages: affirmation, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, quality time, and physical touch. So really beneficial to learn what yours is, right? You may know just from going through that, and to learn what others' love language is that's close to you. Yes, Rosalie.
I forgot. I'm sorry, I missed tap further up. Tap into those resources of blank and blank. I missed it.
Play and imagination.
Thank you.
Tap into those resources of play and imagination. That's on
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. And number 12, once you learn someone's language, you can begin to speak to them at the levels that create maximum impact. That is what this is all about. So how do we choose our attitude?
How do we choose our attitude? That's a very important question, right? Attitude. We definitely want to tap into that. So number 13, how do we choose our attitude? The only power that you have is to choose your own attitude, right? You can't often sometimes you can't choose the circumstance that you find yourself in, but you can choose your attitude, which is going to control your response. In fact, one of our mentors, John Maxwell, I remember him saying one time, he never hires anyone or accepts any of his staff's attitude when it's bad, because he realizes they actually chose it. And so he gives no grace for a bad attitude, because you're choosing to have the attitude that you want. So what attitude are we choosing every day? And it's totally it's probably one of the only powers we really have is to choose our attitude. No one can do it for us. I always like that saying, nobody can do your push-ups for you, right? Only we can control, only we can do those things. The blank is power, the power to choose your attitude. Number 14, make a decision that you're going to be significant in somebody else's life. Make a decision that you're going to be significant in somebody else's life. You know, if we all truly believe that it's better to give than to receive, it's definitely better to be have the ability to give than needing to receive. But if we all really believe that, this is definitely a great approach to life. Don't we all really enjoy giving to somebody? I mean, I still remember when I was a young boy, especially, and Christmas came around, how I really enjoyed giving my mother a gift. They tease me because I can never wait to Christmas because I'm so excited to give that, it's got, the longest I can wait was Christmas Eve. Okay, now you got to open this now. We all enjoy a good gift. I still recall a time when we were at the early stages in our business. I don't know how many songs we had, but it was still, I know it was early stages. And I had this fantastic leadership team around me. And they seen how we were pouring in and doing so many things. So they had a day of giving for me and my business partner. And it was so funny, Q, because we didn't know what was going on. They actually had put fictitious clients on my books then, because I was working, running the salons and doing 8 clients a day. I mean, we were in the early stages. We were burning it at both ends. And so I came in that Saturday, me and my partner, and I guess they weren't totally ready for us. So the guy called me, the AK called me into the bathroom. He said, I got to tell you something. And when I went into the bathroom, he pulled the door closed and they wouldn't let us out. And so we're thinking like, what is wrong with these guys today? They are tripping. So eventually they got everything prepared. We came out and all the staff was there, and they started telling us what they were doing. And they gave us they said, listen, we know how hard you guys work. First of all your appointments on the book are fake appointments. In other words, you have the day off. I said, I have the day off? That was enough for me. We could have stopped right there.
Right.
I got Saturday off because I was working like a slave back then, like a Hebrew slave, as they say. And then they turn around and see it. Plus, what we want to do, we rented you guys a car today. They rented us a convertible yellow Mercedes. I think you've seen that picture, I believe. Me and my partner sitting in that. We go out in the parking lot. They said, this is your car for today. We're like, really? And then they said, next of all, we have booked you guys facial, massage, and manicure at this men's salon downtown Phoenix. I think it was called Boxers. We said, are you kidding me? I mean, I was sitting there sipping coffee, having my nails done just an hour ago. I thought I was going to be slaving. And then they said, and lastly, we have dinner for you and your wives at the Venetian tonight. Man, wow. We never forgot that. That was probably the nicest thing the staff has ever done for us. We never forgot it. You could see how much they enjoyed giving it to us. It was just a wonderful day. So, we had a nice picture of it. I have to show you that picture next week. Well, I'm not in Phoenix, so I can't show you that picture next week, actually. But giving can be such a great experience, right? Now, they were making our day. They went through all of this, right? They played, they were there. They made our day. I mean, they covered all 4 points. And I'm talking about it 20, 30 years later. Number 15, you can be the person that impacts, creates significance, that adds value, that lifts up, that is there for somebody for one of their 365 days. Choose a day. Choose a day. Impacts is the blank. Lifts up is the blank. You can be the person that impacts, creates significance, that adds value, that lifts up, that is there for somebody for one of their 365 days a year. Again, John Maxwell has been one of the most impressive leaders I've come across, and I've been following him for about 30 years. And I was reading one of his books, and he's one of the most intentional people. We're talking this morning about being intentional, right? You're not just all of a sudden thinking, oh, it'd be nice to do something nice for somebody. No, this is how you're living your whole life, is you're there for people. You're serving people, Christ-centered. And he said he has a closet at his house. I'm sure he has a really nice house. John's quite wealthy. And he has a closet. And in that closet are just gifts for people. He says every time somebody visits him, he gives them, he adds value to their life. by giving them a gift. He'll go into his closet and find out what would be the perfect gift for them. And he gives that gift. I've never met somebody more intentional. In fact, the first conference I went to when we got certified as John Maxwell coaches, there was over 12,000 people there. The Marriott in Orlando, Florida, I believe it is, Tampa or Orlando, I can't recall. But this is one, I think it's the biggest Marriott in America, 12,000 people in the room. So big of a room, the sound had to have relays to travel back to us. John had decided, he knew all of us as coaches wanted to be in a picture with him because he's world famous, truly world famous. So he said, I'm going to take a picture with each and every one of you guys. Now I'm thinking he's going to put us in groups of 20 or 30 or 40, but he knows that's not really what we want. We want him on our site, a picture with John Maxwell. They had this long roll of tables. They had this process that, okay, get in line through the whole 3 days. You got in one person, we get in line, pick a time, pick a day. You get in line, take all of your paraphernalia off so you can look good in the picture. And he would just stand there and they would say, go. And you go over, the photographer is ready. He would flash a smile. You would flash your smile, click. And in 3 seconds, the next person was there. Boom, boom. I watched him do that one day for about an hour and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe he could smile that much. I couldn't have smiled that many times. I mean, just hour after hour after hour. He told us at the end, at the third day of that conference, he says, I know I'm in the Guinness World Book of Records. I just took 12,000 pictures, individual pictures with people. And he said, but I want you guys to also know, me being a pastor or a preacher at that point, he says, right before I took the picture with each of you, I prayed for you. And that just blew me away. I said, I've never met anybody who was so intentional. It was enough that he was going to take a picture, period, even if it was 30, 40 of us, because that was a lot of pictures. But to take an individual picture and pray for you, what a leader. That's how he became world famous. The way he sold into people's lives, the way he made their day was probably one of the best examples I've ever heard of.
Wow.
I have significance, number 16. I have the power to add meaning to somebody else's life. Isn't that a wonderful gift in itself? God has given us significance, the power to add meaning to somebody else's life. And then your life is enriched. My life is enriched because of it. You can't make someone else smile without smiling yourself. Wonderful lesson.
Yes, indeed. So number 17, when we live into it, we say that's what we become. When we live from it, we say that's who I am. Okay, I'll say that again. When we live into it, we say that's what we become. When we live from it, we say that's who I am. Number 18, when you make another person's day, you say, I am significant to yourself. When you make another person's day, you say, I am significant to yourself. 19, when you play with people, you say, I am creative to yourself. When you play with people, you say, I am creative to yourself, actually. Number 20, when you are there for other people, you say, I am compassionate to yourself. When you are there for other people, you say, I am compassionate to yourself. And 21, when you say, I am the person who chooses my attitude, You say, I am in control of my life. Regardless of the stuff, you have certainty. So when you say, I am the person who chooses my attitude, what you're really saying is, I am in control of my life, regardless of the stuff. You have certainty. Right? If you're choosing your attitude, you're in control of your life, right? You're not letting the outside circumstances control your life. You're saying, I am in control of my life, regardless of the stuff. You have certainty. Good, good. So the reflective exercise, this is what I want you all to do over the next week. So I want you to run a little experiment, and this is in the handout as well. Every day, I want you to pick one area of your life, right? Work, home, friendships, relationships, or when you're out in public, and ask yourself, how would I show up right now if I were world famous for how I treat people? For my energy or for my presence, right? How would I show up right now if I were world famous for how I treat people, my energy, or for my presence? Then what I want you to do is apply one of the 4 principles each day, okay? So day 1 might be, and you can do these in whatever order, but day 1 might be there, right? Be fully present in one conversation or moment. No distractions, no multitasking. Be there for that person. Day 2 might be play. Bring a little lightness, creativity, or humor to what you're doing, right? Set the intention that you're going to play a little bit when you go up to the register at the store, right? Or when you meet up with friends or colleagues from work. Day 3 might be make their day. Do something intentional to brighten someone else's moment. Day 4 might be choose your attitude. So when something tests you, which we all know that things test us in life, consciously pick the attitude that your world famous self would choose, right? That best version of you. What attitude would they choose in this moment when something tests you, right? And then for the other 3 days, mix it up, right? Be there for somebody, make their day, play, choose your attitude. And here's the thing, I want you to keep a short journal of what happens over this next week as you're being super intentional about being there, playing, making someone's day, and choosing their attitude. And in this journal, you're going to notate, what do you notice in yourself and in others as you're being intentional about this? And then we'll share next week what maybe surprised you, what challenged you, and how people responded when you showed up differently. Okay, so that's in the handout as well. That's the reflective exercise. We're going to run a little experiment. You're going to be there, play, make someone's day, choose your attitude over this next week. Are we in? Who's in? Yes. Yes. All right, let's do it.
Awesome. That was great, Q. So we have a few minutes left. Take 30 seconds. We'd love to hear from you. What stood out for you this morning? What takeaways do you have? What helped you the most? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sandra.
Now, why did you pick me? I mean,
I gave you 3 seconds to pick yourself, but you know, I said, I believe in you, Sandra.
Come on, Sandy.
but you know what? I'm gonna say to Mother Laura, it's funny this conversation is being held this morning because I did just that for her the other day, and she doesn't even know, she doesn't realize it, because someone was talking about their situation and their husband, and she was saying, you know, it made me think. She said, I didn't know when I saw Mother Laura in Philly that her husband had had an operation. And she said, you know, I went through that with my husband. She said, and I would so much love to talk to her. And I said to her, you know what? I said, I'm going to tell Mother Laura and I'm going to ask her, can I give your phone number, give her your phone number to her. I told her I was going to do. And she said, you know, she said, who else would have thought of that? She said, you have this uncanny way of thinking about other people when most of the time you say people don't think about, you know, the things that you go through and the way they're treating you. I said, but you know what? I said, I've learned that if I just be me, I'll be all right. And I'm learning to be me.
Mm.
And it's okay. You know, I'm good. I tried to adjust my attitude. Just yesterday, one of the brothers called me, asked me, could I come help them, knowing that this person, the person that he wants me to help, has an issue with me. And I agreed to do it, and I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that I can just be calm. And
Mm-hmm.
I intentionally want to be present because
Mm-hmm.
I feel that that person needs to know you don't really know me and you choose to be evil all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be present. You know, Q said something that really stuck with me. And I said, I'm going to be this person on Sunday. I'm going to be this person.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all just pray for me because I know that I have a tendency to sometime when people don't really want to listen and they get an attitude, and I know that I need to be calm and I'm going to get through this.
We will pray for you, but you got this. I believe it.
Yeah,
So
I
good.
do.
Awesome. Chris, 30 seconds. Tell us what you got out of this morning. If you would. And Mother Mays, if you're not able to talk, go ahead and write it in the chat because you know we got to hear from you one way or another. That's your call. And while we're waiting on Chris, Yasha, 30 seconds. Tell us what you got from this morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I would just say, you were telling a story about, you know, how much you're just working like a Hebrew slave, and I feel like that's my life a lot. You just never know when somebody else is going to be good to you. I keep giving and I just keep giving and keep giving. And I remember having a moment of feeling like I'm just tired of giving. Like I don't like it doesn't feel like it's reciprocated. And I think in this stage in my life and season of my life, I am watching, you know, others give and someone just give and keep giving and keep giving. And then it's like, now I don't even know how to receive it. So that really just stuck out to me. You just never know. Playing with someone, being good to yourself, being kind to yourself, being intentional about yourself. I love John Maxwell, love his books as well. But I think that you just don't know. Like, and then what stuck out to me was the why not? Like, how come I can't? Like, I love my city. I love Texas, but I love my city. And I've traveled in other states. I haven't been all over the world. Probably maybe have traveled only to 5 states in my life. But there's an area here in Austin, like in the hills, and I think that that area is just absolutely beautiful. And I keep thinking like I would love to live over here. So when you said that about your son, saying like, well, why not? It just reminds me of that. Like, why can't I have what I want?
Exactly. And everybody keep in mind, the Bible doesn't say you will reap what you sow from the people that you sow it to. It just says you will reap what you sow. So somebody else, it may not be the people you're giving to that will give back to you, but somebody will give to you, or that would make God a liar. Okay. And I believe he's telling the truth. Rosalie, what stood out for you or helped you the most this morning?
I just think about, I can't fake it really. It's going to come out if you're pretending or it won't last for me. I have to be myself. That's not a task for me to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just comes so natural. but I'm the type of person, I know how to act polite, but I can't pretend. If something surprises me, or if something sounds awkward to me, or somebody says something of this, that, I kind of just keep quiet, just make sure I'm not part of it. I'm not judging or anything, but it comes natural to me if I speak to somebody, if I say something. I mean, that's the way I am. I can't pretend, because eventually it's going to wear off and you're going to see through me anyway.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, so I feel like it comes natural. I can't pretend, and it's just going to wear off. I feel like I can't be a fake.
Right.
It's going to wear off. You can pretend for so long, you're going to let your guard down anyway after a while, if it's not really in you, So I believe I'm intentional about anything I do, but some people can catch you. I was on the plane one time, just to make it real quick. I was on the plane one time, and this woman wanted to talk a lot. She's very chatty, and I don't want to be rude. Like, would you please be quiet? I just want to get off this plane and get out of here, But she kept on talking. She was so nice. I couldn't be mean. And I made sure I asked questions, but I didn't really feel like a conversation. But I don't think she ever would have known that. I don't think she would have kept talking about it. She was like, I'm not really interested, lady, So, but I remember I kept listening and I talked with her. And I think it made the plane trip pretty nice. So I'm not selfish because I'm not interested in something, and then, you spill off on another person.
Okay.
That's just some of my thoughts or feelings, how I am.
Well, that's what we wanted to hear. Your thoughts and your feelings. So thank you very much. What about, can I mess up your name? What is it? Yvonne?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. What stood out for you this morning? What helped you the most? Give us 30 seconds.
Let me get my voice back to that. Well, what stood out to me was be sincere when I take on the challenge to and to I was listening to the part, especially where decide where you are going to hear the impact that it'll have on you, and as people see you,
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. And we're at the top of the hour, but we do have to, and so anybody's free to leave at this moment. We have not heard from Mother Mays. I think she can't speak, but can somebody read her text? Yeah, can you read it?
Yeah, she wrote in the chat. Mother Mays wrote, "Loving everything I heard. God is good to us. God good to me. You just need to get in touch with him. Loving. So excellent.
Okay. Thank you. And Chris, we're assuming that you're not able or available to speak right now. If you are, you can. But if not, guys, we're going to pick up on this next week. We will go into, Q is going to be facilitating a mastermind session on it, on how to internalize this information. And so invite your friends. If you have somebody that you want to invite and they need to hear, you would like them to have the audios, we can get the audio to catch them up. So invite them next week. Anybody that's not signed up, we have the link in the chat for $1. It signs you up for the first month. Other than that, have a wonderful weekend. I guess we'll see you before Thanksgiving, I think.
Oh, cool.
Be world famous.
Be world famous.
Right.
Thank you. That's right. That's what I wanted. That's what I meant to say. Be world famous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.